welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com Broiler Chicken Show. Trade your trading plans. Don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello, you wonderful people. Happy Broiler Chickens Day. Bark, bark, bark. Here we are. Since we have our fancy schmancy intro now, I don't feel like I have to go, hey, welcome back to all that. Because remember the longest time I go, man, one day maybe we'll have a really cool intro. But Chris has got that all rocking and rolling. So proud of Chris. I got to say, TRI team, top-notch people. Total PMAers. Very proud to work with all of you guys. Thank you very much for just being awesome. It's a real privilege. No way in hell I could do any of this on my own. No way. Impossible. In fact, actually, Chris and I just spent about an hour or so putting together the weekly newsletter, and his grammar is a hell of a lot better than mine, that's for sure. But anyway, so hopefully we'll have a nice hour and a half or so. Chit chat a little bit about what we saw in the market this past week. And of course, well, I got to sneeze. Sorry about all that. If you do want to get this newsletter in your email, I think we have the sign up actually in the description of this video, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Chris? And by the way, Chris, do you mind just putting the OBS settings so that people can hear you? Because I was listening to you, through Julian's show and stuff like that, and it would be really helpful if we could just hear you, even if it's just yes, no, go away, shut up. I don't care. Yeah, just if we could hear from you, it would be great. So
it's a two mic situation, so I have to unmute both. But yeah, I could definitely do that. For Julian, it's a little bit of a different setup, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, well, I mean, just even when you talk to me, if you don't want to talk to Julian, it's fine by me. I won't hold it against you.
No, he's running the show with OBS, so it's a different.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Just being silly. Anyway, the point is that a lot of people are like, "Hey, we want to hear that Chris guy, man. He's totally the boss." So anyway, all right.
But to answer your question, yes, the link is in the description. So yes.
Excellent. Yeah. So if you want a copy of this newsletter sent in your email, not a bad little resource. And then of course you got the big fat link right in here to easily watch this at your leisure if you happen to miss the live show. It's a nice, easy way to make sure that you've got it in your email and ready to go. Some people like using the email, others don't. It's a personal preference, but I like it as a value-added service. Of course, we do post these videos and stuff on the site. You can see Chris is so diligent at this. He posts every time we got a video in the Discord. And of course, you can also find the video in the video recordings. I had a couple people ask, where do we find the videos on the site? And you can see we've got lots and lots. I mean, like, geez, I don't know how many pages. It must be like 5,000 pages here. That says 172 pages of videos if you want to sit and watch video. Oh man, we put out a lot of video content. So anyway, all right. So that's your backdrop for today's broadcast, and also too on your dashboard. If you sign up for the site, we have the latest video offering just sitting there. It's just parked on your default dashboard. So, I suppose a couple shills here just to get things going. We do have our fall term of the school starting up here in about a month. So you're probably going to hear me continually make reference to this. I think this is a great page, and I do it. Are we going to have this page? I know The team is updating the website and the pages that we use to funnel and all that kind of fun stuff, internet web page marketing talk. So this address will change over time, but while this is still up and running, I think it's a fantastic resource for you to not only get an idea of what the education programs are and some of the packages and discounts and stuff that we have. Also, too, very good sort of. We never had anybody formally request a refund. Of course, we have a fairly strict refund policy. I'm more than happy to give you a refund if you show me that you actually put the time and effort in to try and learn the material. So I'm never going to say you're going to have like 100% customer satisfaction. There's always some people that were like, it's okay, Brian. It's not but we have a lot of people that really, really have enjoyed the program and they think they've got good value. And I think this is an excellent way for you to see those people's opinions as well too. We have a few videos that we've taken over the years that sort of speak to the program, and as well, what do you actually get for your money spent. So I really like this page as sort of an overview of our education program as well to understand, and I want everybody who watches this to be fully clear. We have a raffle every single term. So feel free to enter the raffle. You might just win. And a couple people that have won the raffle, there, one gentleman who actually won our very first raffle, he's still on the site. And he's one of our OGs in our stock pickers club. And he's such a great contributing member of the site. So it just goes to show, that was like, oh geez, almost 10 years ago. And we might just change your life if you give us the opportunity. So school term is coming up. You can win a free seat. And of course, if you want to learn a little bit more about TRI and some of the packages and stuff that we offer, I think this is an excellent resource for you. So hopefully we'll include that in the description of the video. I'd also say too, and this is maybe talking a little bit about the program, the education program. If you are watching this channel for the first time, I think it's really important that you understand that there is no one way to trade. And I do see a lot of people in internet land sort of get sucked, especially people that are relatively new to trading. They've sort of discovered their own personal style. And of course, they're teaching courses, become a day trader, make $1 bazillion. Just follow my path, which is all right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I could tell you from firsthand experience over the past 10 years, number one thing that I've absolutely learned is that no two students are exactly alike. In fact, actually, part of our education program is asking you to do a personality test to try and figure out whether trading is actually even a good vocation consideration given your personality. And some people actually find out that actually, no, I'm not really built to be a trader. And really the education program is really what I think the education program really does is it teaches you how to run a small business of trading and what are sort of the key components about making sure that you set yourself up that business is going to be profitable, including things like identifying what type of investor you are, and then based on that answer, what path is most appropriate for you to take. So we're not going to tell you this is the one way to trade and everything else is wrong. That's actually not in your best interest. What we're going to do is ask you to do a lot of self-exploration, and then coming out the back end of the program, you should have a trading plan and all of the tools put in place to support that plan that really help you as an individual, which I think makes the course and the program very unique in internet land, right? Teaching you this thing called the process, which I don't hear a lot of people on social media and stuff really talk about. So anyway, I think I'll leave the shill at that. Like I said, we have a free raffle, so please feel free to join. maybe we can teach you for free. Wouldn't that be great? We do also have a sort of proprietary product that we sell, the dashboard and all the signaling systems. There are a number of different signaling systems that I've developed over the years, tools that I have come to really enjoy using, and they really speak to who I am as a person. They can be found in the signaling systems, and I think, just a reference for people going forward, Mondays in the after party show, I like the idea of reviewing some of the recent signals in the dashboard. And if anything, this it's a good opportunity. There's one gentleman in particular who's asking me lots of questions about the dashboard and algo trading and all that kind of fun stuff. So Monday's after party show, I think that's an excellent opportunity to speak to those questions and also talk a little bit about recent signals and what we're seeing out of the dashboard data, including things like algos and all that kind of fun stuff. We do in the weekly newsletter give you just a quick snapshot of what the system is producing as tradable data for you, and it's really nothing more than that. It's just supposed to be just a quick snapshot. I don't think it's in your best interest to trade off of this data. And if anything, what I suggest people do is use the site data, use the signaling system, use the various different signals that are produced in conjunction with the setups that you like to use. So for instance, we have what's called the breadth indicator. It measures the breadth of the market, which is a very complicated term for most new people to understand when you come to trading. In the classic stock market analysis, they'd use things like the advanced decline line, number of assets making new 52-week highs versus making new 52-week lows, number of assets above their 200 period moving average, below, etc. Those are also great breadth indicators, summation index, cumulative, McClellan oscillator for all those fancy schmancies. Those are all different breadth tools to measure the breadth of the arms index, those kind of things. So TRI has developed proprietary signals measuring that breadth, which are really just a culmination of my entire career. Keep in mind, I've been at this game an awfully long time. And I've been working away like a dog on my technical analysis skills. And I think one of the sort of hidden gems of my, I guess you'd have to say, self-driven education. I don't think I'm not really the biggest fan of going to universities to learn from university professors how to trade, because frankly speaking, I don't think they have the skin in the game to actually really understand what a real trader's life is. And they often make horrible, horrible trades. So anyway, point of the matter here is a lot of my education is just self-taught, trying to do more of what works and less of what doesn't. And this breadth indicator, you'll never find this anywhere else on the interneting. It is something that I've developed over the years. And I'm actually so over the top pleased that we've actually, I used to run this on my 1980s website that I sort of programmed myself. Then I ran into somebody who actually knows what they're doing with programming and site building and PHP and all the various different languages and stuff, doing it actually the right way. And actually, it's beautiful to see this thing actually now in the 21st century humming along. And the great part about it is, if you are curious about the breadth indicator and the signals and stuff that it produces, Julian has actually done quite a bit of work with Josh, his sort of marketing assistant, to vet out the data back testing. Now the question is, can we forward real-time test the signals and actually make money from trading using this? Actually, I'm pretty pleased to see that just operating the Bitcoin algo manually. I would ideally like to have the computer take over this job. But manually running the algo, you can see we're buying and selling. I've been running it since December, and it's up about 50-60% compounded returns. So that's nothing to sneeze at. And it's just simply buying and selling the crypto breadth indicator, that crossover, like I showed you in the newsletter, just whenever the signals come in. And if you do happen to sign up for the newsletter, if you click on any of these, they will take you to the web pages. And of course, I encourage you to sign up for the website. So as you can see, crypto breadth actually is working along right now, and it's been working that long for a few days now. I don't really like to report this in real time. I encourage you to consider subscribing to the site. We did have a little head fake sell signal there a week or so ago, but if anything, that's a pretty typical algo trader's life. And ironically enough, we exited position, then got back into the market at within 2 or 3% of actually where we exited, sort of a big zero-sum game. And actually, when I used to prop trade, guys who would overtrade in the market, they would say, "Hey, you're just working for the broker now, generating tons of commissions." And so that's probably the way that I would look at that recent signal. We generated some commissions for our brokerage platform. But nonetheless, the one thing I really like about the breadth indicator is it keeps you on the right side of the market. So interestingly enough, and considering it is summer, this is usually when crypto, once we get beyond that July 4th holiday weekend, usually the market is relatively uppy into the latter part of the summer. And frankly speaking, I still kind of think that that's what's going to happen. So we'll see how that goes. I've noticed that the stock market is we're at a really interesting inflection point here for the stock market. Stocks themselves kind of brushing up against the top ends of ranges. So it doesn't surprise me that the breadth indicator is kind of wishy-washy here right now. If I look at things just recently, and I like this as a proxy on the broader market, this is the Russell 2000. You can see that, just since, and really you might even argue, basically the past year, the broader US stock market has actually just been going sideways. And we are right back up against the top end of the range. This, if anything, this is probably a good, like I said, a good look at the broader stock market. This is the biggest 2,000 stocks in the U.S. stock market. And we can probably also see that if we, what's the best way to do this? Let's just go new layout. If we pull up something like the, Julian got off a huge win, and some site members got off a huge win this past week in Tupperware. So congratulations to all you sharks trading these little penny stocks. I wasn't in that one, but way to go, TRIers. But what I wanted to show you was S&P 500. You can see if we look at this on an annualized basis, right, there's May, June, July of last year. So we are higher on the S&P 500 and the big indexes versus that Russell 2000, which is just sort of stuck in a range. I guess the one thing that concerns me when I look at this chart itself is you can see, reload zones and all that kind of fun stuff. We are in a bit of a danger area here. So I can understand why the algo is a little bit leery about getting too bullish. My hunch here is that the algo for the big US market, it turns back up if we can maybe consolidate a little bit up here. And you can see, I mean, is that the kind of bar that maybe we should pay attention to? And actually, it's interesting because that signal hasn't technically fired yet. And this Friday's action actually is what we call an inside bar. So that's a bit of an odd chart. You don't see that kind of chart pattern every day in the market. I'll tell you that much, by crackers. I don't know whether this signal is going to fire or not, but gee whiz, that sure stands out, eh? And actually, interesting enough, in the coming week, we have a couple larger companies that need to report. In fact, we even said here, coming week, we've got Apple and Amazon. Those are some pretty big names. They will be reporting. And I thought it was interesting this past week. Everybody's in love with Allen. Oh, God, he's the best thing since sliced bread, whatever. But I did find it interesting from a technician's point of view, because keep in mind, I don't like to get, sucked into like, social media sentiment kind of stuff. I just follow the chalk marks. And Tesla here, for instance, they reported, and actually the street really didn't like what they reported. So that actually spat out an outside downside key reversal on a weekly basis. And you don't see that every day. So that actually that really jumped out at me. So I don't know. We'll see how Apple and Amazon and those kind of stocks report. And if they're not really very happy, don't be surprised if we have to do a bit of backfilling here. And if anything, oh boy, there are a hell of a lot of holes in this chart that really could use some filling in. Maybe just interesting. Just take a minute. Let's take a look at that Apple. What does it look like? Yeah. So I don't know whether you can see this or not. We might just go blasting through the top. But what does that Beamish guy say? If you ever see the market smiling at you, what do you think you should be thinking? So you can see the potential smile is forming up there. And the smile will actually confirm if we go through that low there. So we haven't yet. And like I said, Apple is reporting here in the coming week. And, this is just a function of what the hell's going on in China. I don't know whether you've seen what China looks like. It's just an absolute mess. And then, of course, I guess the question ultimately is Apple still the earnings juggernaut that it used to be? It was interesting, years gone by, and I even remember when we were teaching the course program back in last cycle down in this area. Apple used to have like literally like single digit PE ratios, and so in that kind of environment, it was like Apple was actually a value stock, which is insane, right? Especially in through here. The PE ratios were like, 9 times earnings, which is value. But you can see that Apple's not a value stock anymore. And it's actually got some pretty rich valuations. So now we're at 33 times earnings. That's not that, if anything, that's now getting Apple is now a growth stock. And usually these growth stocks, they can go on, but if they ever slip out, look out. As well, too, something that's extremely disturbing, which I would never invest in, is I hate when I see these kind of debt to equity numbers. That's awful. Ugh. This story's old. This story's over. Price to book, it's trading at 48 times book value. I don't know whether you're aware or not. Actually, this might be a fun interaction opportunity with the audience. What is Brian? What would be like a high price to book value that would cause Brian to be a little bit concerned? Just out of curiosity, let's see if anybody even knows what I would think. Needless to say, 48 times book, that's not really anywhere close. So, the problem here is you can't really make the case that Apple's even, it's definitely not cheap, that's for sure. You would, I don't know how people can justify buying this stock. The book value per share is $4. $4. Oh, this has got disaster written all over it. Oh, goodness. I don't know. Just out of curiosity, I don't see anybody replying over there. We got 30 people watching and not a single reply. Eddie probably. Hey, Eddie's here in the hangout with us. Hey, Eddie. Sure love the fact that Eddie still believes in me. Um, nice to see you, sir. Does anybody know what in our education program? Any of you level oneers? Yeah, well, that would even 4 times book would definitely I I would be like, I worked for a brokerage house years ago, and it was bought out by these banks, and they just wanted to gobble them up, and they paid 3.5 times book for the brokerage house. It was when RBCDS bought out Richardson Green Shields, and all the brokers like summarily left Richardson Green Shields after the buyout by the bank. And it was palatable when the bank came in, the way that they act and they talk. And it's just like my boss, I mean, he didn't last very long. When I was at this particular brokerage house, I was a broker's assistant. And I think he lasted about a year or so. And then he was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. So anyway, 49 times book. Holy crap. That's insanity. I mean, it's just, frankly speaking, I don't understand how they can actually justify the price of this stock. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. And like I said, back in like 2016, 2017, through when Bitcoin went running up and tagged 20,000 for the first time. I mean, gee whiz, that was such a fun market state. This stock was trading single digit PEs. I mean, I don't know how you can justify this. And look how many insiders actually own the stock. Isn't that a little bit suspicious? I mean, 0.07% of the company is owned by insiders. And that actually was a decrease. Uh-oh. Oh, this is nuts. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to get into the business of predicting the future, but I will say that just simply put, this looks pretty dangerous. Maybe it can go higher. I mean, God, any old damn thing can happen in this world. But given those fundamentals, wow, that's bothersome. So anyway, if you do see the market smile at you here, then you know that we've got some trouble ahead for this stock. So anyway, we'll see what happens. And then what does Amazon look like? Jeez, I'm sure it's no better. AMZN. I mean, I guess you could make the argument it's already starting to smile to a certain degree, but I think probably the big smile, if this thing is going to smile, is going to come on some sort of failure through that low there. So keep your eyes peeled. I wouldn't say either of these things has failed yet, but I did find it interesting that, this guy's such a darling and everybody loves him, and he thinks or he thinks everybody thinks he walks on water. I was actually quite surprised to see the violent drop here. Not really a smile. And if anything, they left a huge price gap here, I guess, on that earnings event date. We may rally right back up top and fill that gap in. But interestingly enough, on this guy, you could actually make the argument that the bear's already in, which I suppose makes sense because, Alan was selling just a ridiculous amount of stock there to go and buy social media outlets and stuff. But interesting, look at that. Boom, 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 boom. Look where it stopped. Wow, that's remarkable, eh? So, I have a simple rule that says that this asset really isn't a quote unquote buy until you actually get market structure on the other side of this trend line. So I wouldn't consider this like a technical buy until I actually saw W on the other side of this downtrend line. And actually, when we get to it later on, you'll see what I mean with the Bitcoin chart and what Mr. Fink's little sort of, I want to do a Bitcoin ETF and all that shit, what it did to the price and how I still don't really have a buy signal on Bitcoin right here. But you'll see that. So I guess the point here is And I would even argue that we're kind of in no man's land on a stock like this. I don't know whether I'd really even want to do one trade versus another, because I think you can make the argument. Where's the little price measuring tool? So they've added this thing, arrows. You can do lots of arrows now. Where the hell's that damn price thing? Oh, here it is, way over here. So to the bottom, and then to the top, it's almost exactly equal. So it's not really the best trade location. I'll tell you that much, by crackers. And of course, if we do see a big fat M here, probably if you did really want to short this thing, I mean, I do like that weekly outside downside key reversal. I don't see those every day. So I wouldn't fault you if you were like, gee whiz, Brian, I'm just going to trade this, live with the results. It's nice, clean levels. I've got a nice shorting level that actually has confirmed, and I've got a nice stop level. And if they can run this thing up through the top of this trend line and break that high, then you probably don't want to be short this thing anyway. So you've got a pretty well-defined risk window here on this stock. But my hunch is that this thing probably doesn't get going in earnest to the downside until, believe it or not, same sort of logic with this downtrend line. You're actually probably going to do something like that. And then if you can get the market structure signal below this trend line, then that becomes an outright short. And look out. I mean, look, you can see, if this thing does have to come back to long-term trend line support, it's probably somewhere down in here. Eh? So there is the long-term trend line, which is ironic. And we've got a lot of people. Is anybody expecting that? Who knows? And the irony of it all is that's just taking us back to this stupid pre-sickness world. And, I got to say, as one human being, this was I mean, what's so cool is that this was the Jupiter-Saturn cross right in here. And I tell people, where was it? I guess it was like right in there. The Jupiter-Saturn cross in earnest. And I get the feeling that the human species just went actually a little bit insane. I've been on the planet 50 bloody years. I've never seen some portions of our population have any voice. In fact, I've often seen them quite discriminated against. And all of a sudden, in this kind of environment, they all of a sudden just became authorities. It's like, what the hell's going on? And then what's fascinating is as we're moving further and further away from this event, you're actually seeing society now. It's almost like, like the pendulum. It almost swung to like such an extreme here. Now you're starting to see the pendulum swing back the other way. It's kind of interesting how this guy's stock sort of looks like that kind of image through this. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. No idea. One thing I will say, which is kind of interesting, is that I think a huge part of this story was, for the longest time, we said that Mr. Wonderful here was doing nothing more than just selling tax credits. And if I understand correctly, he's even gone out to the public and said that these tax credits, a lot of these states, a lot of these governments are now starting to claw back the tax credits. And the whole incentive for this company to outperform actually might be dissipating. As well, too, there are a lot of other automobile manufacturers that are coming into this space as realistic competition. So anyway, interesting anecdote on this thing. It's probably certainly wouldn't be a company that I'd be even the slightest bit interested in investing in now. The question ultimately is, would you be interested in trading something like that? And fascinating how this outside downside reversal, which is a hugely bearish event, actually came in right at the original market structure topping level. So you can see not only this huge M top here, but also this beautiful, very pretty M top here, and then M top here. So what a surprise, we failed pretty much at exactly where probably the institutional players think that there's some sort of top in this stock. That's fascinating. So, and you never know. I mean, what you might find happens here is this thing just simply consolidates. And like I said, if we can actually get on the other side of this trend line and then put in bullish structure, all right, well, maybe we're getting ready for the next leg higher. As I would teach the level 1 students, what I would just simply say is this might be a trend continuation trade developing. The issue here, though, is if it is trend continuation, you don't really want it to go beyond 66. The fact that we came all the way down to 78.6 actually, to me, leads me to believe that this is more of a trading range now. So, if you want to watch for levels developing going forward on this particular guy, I might suggest, say we blew through 66, like it wasn't even there. So it's a bit tough, but I guess I would be thinking, if we were going to bot this thing out, and I really don't like this idea, but nonetheless, what the hell? Yeah, I mean, it's just a mess. I don't really see anything, but if maybe we calmed down and just went sideways for a bit and broke out, well, maybe after that you can start shooting for upside objectives up top here, but I don't know. I think there's better fish to fry elsewhere. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he's all probably obsessed with his space company and boring company and with X. I don't even know what the hell he's going to call Twitter now. So I don't even know if he's even that interested in Tesla anymore. So anyway, I thought that was fascinating, and I'm going to be watching that very closely going forward. As I started off this conversation, if we are expecting that this market is going to actually transition into a bull here, I would expect this setup to fire. It does look like it wants to fire. And actually, one thing that does kind of jump out at me that I kind of like is I do believe that the politicians that are in power down in the United States right now, they're going to try and do everything they possibly can. What would my short be? It would be the key reversal, right? So if you're asking what would the short be on stop on the Tesla, it's basically this right here. So I would risk to a break of the key reversal high, and you're just risking the key reversal bar. If anything, that's the one reason why I really like key reversals is it's pretty straightforward. Don't have to overthink that. Anyway, so what I see here is I see a V top. I see a pretty healthy correction. 1 low, 2 lows, 3 lows, 4 lows. Look at that. We got even a cute little W within the W. I think this is actually a proxy on, is the Fed actually nearing completion of its war on the economy, if you will? Really war on inflation. And to that end, that's a big part of our newsletter here. Past week saw the much anticipated July FOMC meeting and associated short-term interest rate decision. Fed's next meeting is in September, which I think is important. We should acknowledge that it's going to be another, I guess, easily a good 6 weeks or so, sort of humming and hawing as to what the heck the market's going to do. And quite often you'll actually see that they'll even build in a rally halfway through. And then as we get closer to the FOMC event, they take some of that rally back. Oh, what's the Fed going to do? That kind of thing. So we've got a bit of a window here where the market can run. Jerry there recently, we had a fun session there, I guess, on Wednesday, watching the Fed announcement, chit-chatting. And I think there was a live video feed that if you check out our channel, are we posting the FOMC meeting hangouts in the channel somewhere, Chris? Do you know? We probably should, just so people who are watching the.
Definitely should. I could talk to Stuart about getting a specific entry for that instead of it being a daily brief for Broiler Chicken Show. We only have a few selections to choose from.
I don't think Stewart, we have to stress him out. He's more of the site. I'm talking about the YouTube channel. Probably just need to create a
That's there.
subheading.
That's already there.
All right, cool. So, if you are watching publicly and you want to go back and see what that FOMC club meeting was all about, that's kind of a fun thing. We should also post it in this site. So if anything, yeah, not a bad idea that, maybe in the development room, we just make a note that we should probably put that in the site videos, video recordings as well. Anyway, so we have a fun meeting and we started chit chat about which reporter wants to have Jerry's baby and stuff. It's quite remarkable to see how even news reporters are they literally act like high school cafeteria kind of stuff. These are like grown men and women and the way that they act and the verbiage that they use, you can totally tell whether they like Jerry or whether they're have a hatred for him and stuff. And I suppose news reporters themselves have a personal sort of bias, so it doesn't surprise me. Anyway, so Jerry himself specifically said, well, we've got a bunch of reports coming up here. And based on the data from those reports, are probably going to give us a pretty good idea of whether we want to raise interest rates anymore or whether we're done. And we had a report come out just this past week, the personal consumption expenditure. It was the prices paid index. We have down here. Chris has actually added some of the major econs that have come out this past week. And I think it's a fantastic resource for you just to get an idea of what the heck the higher ups are thinking in the market. Let's see, how do I move this over? There we go. So you can see we had, there was the Fed rate decision. And now for us to know that indeed they are done raising interest rates, we probably want to see the inflation data prints come in well below this number, which I think we're going to see now, and then actually start trending back down to that sort of 2 to 3% area. So you can see Europeans still actually have a ways to go just to play catch up to the Americans. And keep in mind that generally speaking, the Americans, like I think the Rothschilds took over the American banking system and decided after the Brits sort of, basically blew up their budgets fighting the Germans in the First World War. And of course, the Germans totally destroyed their their currency through that First World War, and Europe just became an absolute shit show. I get the impression that the powers that be decided that the United States monetary system would be the new fiat currency base. And the irony of it all is I think the actual decision was made back in 1913, a year and a half before the outbreak of the First World War. Very interesting. Anyway, so I believe that the US dollar is used as the world's currency hegemony right now. I don't think that's news to anybody. And so as a result, you will see that the Fed and the US should have the highest interest rates out of everybody. And interestingly enough, even now, the Japanese still don't want to start raising interest rates. They're still more than happy just hyperinflating their currency to keep funding the. What I get the impression is that Japanese society is actually dying, which is really sad. Now I'm hearing, actually, I was watching a bunch of YouTube shorts and stuff. The Japanese themselves, they really have no interest in foreigners, but I'm actually hearing that foreigners are slowly growing in size and magnitude within Japan. And then, of course, the local Japanese, they don't like that at all. So anyway, that's an interesting conversation for another day. Point here is that the US will probably have the highest rate, and you notice the ECB. I think basically, Lagarde is basically just a lapdog for the Americans. And she just basically gets her marching orders from people that you will never see in the public. She has total mouthpiece. So not really a big surprise out of that. I think the thing that sort of if anything, it calmed the market. The personal consumption expenditure sort of number, which is sort of like the central banksters' preferred inflation gauge, which is, there's one guy on social media, I love him. He reports on the Canadian economy all the time. And he calls it the CP lie. So I think so many people have just gotten used to the fact that the CPI, Consumer Price Index, is so completely out of touch with reality that people have just stopped believing it. I think it's part of this sort of banksters toolkit that they use, but a lot of these data sets, they're kind of just sort of made up out of the blue by these central planner, central bankster crook guys to justify their behaviors. So they've got this current one. They call it the personal consumption expenditure index, and it is their preferred tool that they will use to gauge whether inflation is out of control or not. I mean, we all know. If anything, in my Twitter feed, I put out, there's somebody on the site put out sort of the shadow government statistics of actual inflation versus, these phony baloney numbers that these central planners ram down our throats these days. And the numbers are like apples and oranges. They're just completely different. But, and actually there's one gentleman that consistently reminds me, Brian, it's wonderful that you get all emotionally charged by these central planners and the absolute criminal behavior of them and the way that they basically steal generations of wealth right from in front of our faces. And there's not a damn thing we could do about it. But he even says, well, Brian, there's not a damn thing we can do about it. Why get all upset? You only have so much time on this planet. Do you really want to spend all your time and energy just getting all upset at these idiots? There's not much you can do about it. So I hear his words banging around in the back of my head constantly when I go on these funny rants. So I suppose, if anything, buy Bitcoin. Right? That's the solution. And as long as they keep this criminal behavior and keep doing what they're doing, Bitcoin price is just going to keep going up. So just buy Bitcoin. And then, more importantly, and this is the hard thing for most of the people in the public to do, is you have to understand where we are in their 4-year money cycles. And the great part about it is Bitcoin actually gives you a reference point, because it seems that the people who built Bitcoin are fully aware of these 4-year money cycles. And when that reference date happens, get ready. Here comes another big whack of money printing and easy money to keep the fiat currency system going. And that means up goes Bitcoin. So, crazy world. If we play this correctly and we follow the rules and we do this right, there should be more money than you ever need. And I'm even witnessed. I know a bunch of people that have gone through the education program and they, life-changing wealth. The key here, though, is if you're going to play the shortcoin market, for damn certain, you got to learn how to take profits. And I have seen a few people I've seen quite a few people, which is quite sad, become very, very wealthy in crypto. But unfortunately, they never learned how to take profits. And so as a result, they end up giving it all back when we're on the other side of that 4-year money cycle. And I suppose half of my dilemma is that I just keep liking to play the market and just keep, every day showing up. And then you got to sit there and, okay, what the hell are we going to talk about when the cycle rolls over? I mean, we can only get so angry at the people that chill the top of the market. They're just idiots. And then we have to spend a year or two just cleaning the whole space up, setting the base, and starting the game all over again. So the good thing, if anybody wants to make a note, and you should all write this in your journals, and you all should, in fact, you should be able to finish this sentence. Where's Adam? Adam loves finishing my sentences as the sentence is coming out of my mouth. he can actually finish the sentence before even the words get to my lips. But is something happening in the Bitcoin land next spring? Anyone? When are we supposed to expect a bottom to come in on the Bitcoin price? And really the entire money cycle? I don't know. It's coming. So get ready. Anyway, I suppose we'll talk Bitcoin a little bit. So just finish off this thought. The inflation numbers are actually coming in a little bit better than expected. There's Adam. He's on a delay. So if you're not watching the real time, Adam, it's going to be tough for you to finish my sentence. Maybe you should come into the hangout here. Come into the Zoom call. Just kidding. Anyway, so, if we know that the Bitcoin halvening is in next April, and we know that we're supposed to bottom about 6 months ahead of the halvening event, and we know that this is supposed to follow the money cycle, then by definition, then that means that we must be getting close to the Fed nearing the end of raising interest rates. And of course, if you listen to guys like Larry Williams, it's really cool. There's a couple people on the site that really like to follow him closely, and every time he spits out a public video, they're posting it on the site. So thank you very much, TRIers. And he likes to follow that inflation cycle, and he's an old timer, just primarily trading the stock market, not too interested in things like crypto. And his attitude is that the Fed's probably almost done, so I have to start turning bullish to stocks again. And, that brings us full circle. If the stock market, if the Fed is nearing done raising interest rates and they feel like they've gotten in front of this inflation curve, then does it make sense that these kind of bullish setups can start firing? And this is basically your bull market. The interesting thing is if you look back on something like, I guess we could probably use, actually, I don't even know if this ETF was around then. Let's see. Let's make it simple. DJI. That's a good old Dow. If you look back in the early 1980s, I think this is a similar situation. So, what was fascinating was through this window right here, there was a guy actually who was basically calling the end to the US capitalist system right through here. And we all use his technical analysis tools on the site. This is part of our level 1 education program. Joe Granville and his on balance volume indicator. And I actually get the impression that we are kind of in this environment right here, just waiting for the green light of when does this thing go absolutely crazy. And of course, you can see what happened through sort of the bigger chunk of the 1980s. You might even argue that relatively speaking, you'd go, where's the arrow? Where the hell is the arrow? I thought it was in here. Trend lines raised. Where's the arrow? Anyway, 1983, right? So you are right here. The only problem with this image is that it's very, very difficult to see this market state in the current environment. Why? Because thanks to Mr. Ben Bernanke and all the stupid academics, they went and diluted this thing over here that we actually priced this thing in. So you can't see that the similar part of the cycle. I mean, I think we're kind of like right in here. You could make the argument that the market actually topped out in 2000. And then, of course, we had that phony baloney war and the war on terror and all that nonsense. Did they ever find those weapons of mass destruction? What are we supposed to think if we see a Bush family member, career politicians, coming on TV and talking to you. And their lips are moving. Hint, hint, hint. There's the answer. I mean, I can't believe what a fucking con job that whole thing was. And the irony of it all is that they're so powerful that if you, through that event, said that this was a con job, they would throw you in jail. They might even murder you. And they would totally get away with it. That's how evil this species is. I tell you, man. Evil. So think of this image right here and think of this as like year 2000, right? And we're trying to set the stage for the next big bull market, right? There is your greed cycle. Look how big it is, right? So how are we going to see this with all the fuckery that these stupid bankster crooks have done to us? Well, the easiest way to do, and this is the kind of cool that we can actually even do this, because 10 years ago I couldn't do this and I couldn't show you this. But what happens if we just simply divide this thing by the M2 money supply, or get rid of all the dilution that they've done with this M2 money supply? And then, well, hello, there's that image. Do you see how that looks a hell of a lot like that 1980 that I was showing you before? So this is, and interestingly enough, actually, there we are now. There is the 2000 peak way up there. We're still a million miles away from there. So, if we go back to that 1980 comparison, this is taking, just the headline number that you see. Because keep in mind, they were not allowed to fuck with the money supply back here. So they did not fuck with the way that they were reporting this thing. If anything, they took the Americans off the gold standard, but they weren't able to actually dilute, print tons and tons of money, which of course they've done through this whole quantitative tightening nonsense or easing. And, just, call a spade a spade. This is what I almost find amusing about all this is if we actually look at the M2 money supply, and people are all, oh, quantitative tightening, quantitative tightening. I mean, you tell me, have they actually really done much here? I mean, it's almost embarrassing. There's 1981. Look at that. The money supply back then was 1.2 trillion, 1.6, 1.7 trillion. So quite literally what they've done since 1981 is increase the money supply, which means the dilution of your standard of living, you and I, altogether by 30 times. Well, no, actually, maybe not 30. What does that number say? I can't even read. Let's say 20 trillion. Is that what that number says? I think it's something like that. So let's just see how badly our standard of living has been diluted. So we said here back in 1980, 81, this was the last great reset nonsense. Money supply, I guess we'll just use 1.5 trillion, so something like that. So let's say we're at 20 trillion, which I think is a little bit generous. I thought we were up in like 31 trillion, but let's go with 21. Divided by 1.5, we'll say. Whoops, what did I just do there? That's not right. Brian, let's see if we can get that correct. So 21 divided by 1.5. So if you were alive in 1981, then quite literally what this means is your standard of living has been diluted 14 times. We are living 1/14 the standard of living of society in 1981 when Ronald Reagan was first elected president of the United States of America. And actually at that time, we had an absolute card-carrying commie quasi-dictator running my country. And how ironic, his son is actually running our country, and he's an even bigger communist than his old man. How ironic, eh? More things change, the more they stay exactly the same. Anyway. All right, so point here is, theoretically, I think what ends up happening here is I think these bankster crooks, all that crap, I think what they really want, keep in mind, this is still growing. This is not growing. This is still going up. But I just think that they want this growth rate to get back to trend line. And, this was the sickness economy. and how they just basically propped up everything. And that's sort of your hyperinflation problem. So it's not like we're going to go into deflation here. And you hear these bankster crooks all the time use the term disinflation. Well, they're still going to be inflating things. It's just the rate of inflation that they inflated through this sickness. They're going to break the economy if they continue that. So not a big surprise that we're actually in this environment now. So I think that's what this is. You hear Jerry these days, right? Talking about disinflation. Well, we're still, ridiculous growth here in the money supply. It's just they are trying to bring it back to sort of trend line growth rate. I think that's what their ultimate objective is. We'll see what happens. Only time will tell. Can't really comment too much more on that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Okay, so inflationary numbers, notice that these are still positive. They're not talking about these things going negative, and heaven forbid they would never want these things to go negative. And if they do, that might actually cause them to start lowering interest rates. But they are coming back down to sort of that trend line growth rate that they would ideally like to see. Interesting to see personal spending month over month still pretty strong down in the States. So it's not like they can let off the gas pedal. And the problem with inflation, and you can even see it all around the lower mainland here in Vancouver, is the guy that's in charge of my country, he has not taken this inflation problem seriously. He still believes in the Klauses and great resets and all that bullshit, right? This is your great reset, right? We are now 1/14th the society that we once were. So they have to basically just add a zero onto the end of every single price to sort of hit that great reset button, and then they'll start the whole damn money printing thing all over again. So I guess the point here is these numbers are coming back down to earth, which I suppose is a good sign. But I think that there still is quite a bit of pressure in the system. That's probably the best way to describe this. You can even see durable goods growth, 4.7% annualized rate. That's pretty damn strong. I don't think that's the kind of data that you want to see to expect the Fed to lower rates. And the irony of it all is, as long as the Fed is raising interest rates, that's actually a good sign. It means the economy is strong. They wouldn't be raising interest rates if the economy wasn't strong. And it's interesting to see that the GDP data is actually coming in better than expected. So the economy can handle these higher interest rates. This is the US economy, though. I don't know whether things like the Canadian economy can handle further interest rates, because we already have a ridiculous housing bubble going here. And, there's lots and lots of chatter about how houses are just not affordable here whatsoever. And there really isn't any other industry in Canada. Like in Western Canada, we are a commodities nation, and this idiot that's in charge of our country right now is trying to put the commodities people out of business. So that can't help economic prospects going forward. And heaven forbid, if this housing bubble ever actually does pop in Canada, oh boy, there's no industry supporting this country, and it could just turn into an absolute shit show here. So if you want some fun entertainment, go look on YouTube at the commentators about the Canadian real estate market. It's laughable watching them right now, because they're starting to get a little stressed. And my hunch is one of these days, pop goes the bubble. Anyway, we'll see what happens. All right. And I suppose the one thing that actually does have my interest, and it's kind of leaving me scratching my head a little bit, is, and keep in mind, I will, I'm not the type of person to put money. I would never give Winnie the Pooh money to my money and trust him with it. Never, 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 never. But technicians are technicians are technicians, and we might as well acknowledge the facts. These are two ETFs that measure this Chinese market. And we've seen that China over the past, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks is almost doing a complete about face. They had a guy in charge. I don't know whether we did this as a headline. I guess we didn't. I'm trying to, maybe not talk so much politics here, but they had a guy who was their foreign minister. He was put into place about 6, 8, well, maybe about, well, better part of a year ago. We'll call it that. And he was the guy who was sort of the wolf warrior diplomacy guy over there. And then all of a sudden, a month ago, he sort of just disappeared. And the guy who used to be the foreign minister was put back into power, and he is more capitalist, sort of friendly. They're saying that things like Hong Kong pressures being let off a little bit, and they're actually introducing measures. They'd like to see the economy actually grow again over there in China, especially after all the lockdowns and stuff about COVID. And I hate to say it, but it does look to me, I'm not nearly as bullish of China as I am of things like the Russell 2000, which I think could do very, very well going forward. If we look at things like, well, I mean, we spent a lot of time looking at that earlier, so you know what I'm talking about with the U.S. Economy. But it is interesting to see that China, technically speaking, if you actually took this symbol name away, and I didn't have to worry about totalitarian dictatorships and all that kind of stupidity, and just said, well, Brian, what do you think of this price chart? I gotta say, this thing looks like it's a technical buy. You've heard me go on about how I won't invest my money in China, but if there were China proxies that I could have some trust in, maybe like years gone by when I was a broker back before all of this crypto and all, my wife unfortunately doing her thing. I would back in the early 2000s, my way to play Asia was actually through Australia. I wouldn't play Australia nowadays. Just like I'm not interested in Canada, but we're not in a commodity cycle anymore. So I don't think I'd actually even really like to invest. This would be just more of a trade. But the point here is just simply that this is a bullish bot. We've got some interesting foggy boggies. Now this W has actually confirmed. If we were just thinking dead cat bounce, technically speaking, we should think 38.2s to 50%, that kind of thing. And of course, if the US market is rallying, and now we've got like a month window here where I think the capitalists basically have a blank check. They can do anything they want with as long as the inflation data doesn't come in ugly, and I don't really see it coming out ugly. You might actually see that China actually does pretty well here over the next little while. So go figure. I mean, I'm not going to endorse the idea, but caveat emptor. If you are interested, there is a China long bet forming here. Go figure, eh? So is what it is. If anything, a good technician kind of just says, well, I don't really care about the story. I don't want to know the story. I just trade the chalk marks. Buyers are overwhelming sellers, and I want to be long. Having said that, I can't do that because I can't buy totalitarian dictatorships. It breaks all of my moral codes. Not allowed to do it. Sorry. Anyway, it is what it is. Okay, so I guess the point here is if you are following Asia, it is interesting. They've got a manufacturing number coming up here tonight. And you might just find that Asia actually has a pretty good showing here if these numbers start outperforming. Notice that this is basically up against the 50 line. The 50 line in itself is sort of the measure of contraction or expansion. Now, are these numbers manipulated? I'll leave that up to you. But, to justify what we're seeing on the price charts, and if indeed China is rallying, rah, 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 you're probably going to start seeing some more friendlier prints from the Chinese econs going forward. So I can imagine there's probably a bunch of people who are going to be watching that number tonight. So just be forewarned. Nothing really new to report. Weekly commodity trend survey here for you guys. I will, I think, maybe tomorrow on the site video on Mondays. We do an after party video. I think I might, dig into this a little bit more. Having said that, I don't really see a hell of a lot to get too excited about. There are a few commodities that I think look very interesting from an investment perspective. Interestingly enough, since crypto has been taking a bit of a pause, there are a bunch of cryptos that I think actually look very interesting from an investment perspective. It's not a hell of a lot else though that I mean, you can't argue that tech stocks. I mean, I walked through that Apple chart and the Apple fundamentals. There's no way I can justify that as cheap or a value play. So I'm not really, I mean, if anything, that China story, it's a trade, but I don't know whether it's actually really like an investment. I think it's more just dead cat bounce off of the lows. So I'm not going to really do too much into that today. But what I will point, and this is a good example, what does a market that I want to be hunting buys look like? This is the crypto top 30. So this little guy here, he's not going to be in the top 30, but hopefully you look at this price chart and you go, Jesus, this has got Beamish written all over it. Can you see how I'm interested in an asset at the bottom end of its range? Can you see that? I don't know whether you can see that or not. If you actually went out into the public and you showed 100 people this price chart, my hunch is most people would go, well, why would I want to invest in that? That thing looks like it's going down. It's going to go to zero. But what you have to understand is that institutional players, they buy down markets and then they sell up markets when the public, of course, is chasing and FOMO buying and all that kind of talk, right? That's when the institutions are selling. And what I'm trying to do, believe it or not, is actually turn all of you from being Joe Public who loses, 95% of the public cannot play this game correctly. They lose money when they invest, but they're not really investing. They're just speculating. And I'm trying to turn you from that into an institutional type player. And, time and time again, Adam's over there on YouTube. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to post something to attest to this. What usually ends up happening is if I've done my job correctly, you can't really talk to the public about investing if I've done my job correctly with you. You can't talk to family members about investing. You can't talk, and what's so ironic is like literally, Uncle Joe or, even mom or dad will literally comment about a market and then potentially investing in it. And that all of a sudden is our warning sign that, oh, fuck, we better get the hell out. But we actually use the public and the way that the public acts as that's actually a time to sell, folks. You better get out of the market. So the fact that the public would have absolutely no interest in a name like this is one major reason why I would be interested in something like this. And I tell you, I see a ton of Schult coins, we'll call them. I don't know. Ideas that look exactly like this. I see just a ton of ideas. No guarantees from the management, none whatsoever. And if anything, there's one particular risk strategy that I teach all of you level oneers where you're not really going to try and actually pick the bottom because even like this well-defined W, it's got maybe like a 30-40% chance of getting stopped out. And if you are trading and you want to be a trader and all that crap, well, if we break these lows, then you better walk away, right? You're usually putting a bit of money at risk, maybe leverage trading, that kind of stuff, futures contracts. And if we break the lows, then you better get out. But there are risk taker types that you can take in the market. And, here's actually a really, really good example. You don't necessarily have to be like Mr. Sharpshooter in the marketplace to make money from trading. You just simply have to identify what type of risk taker you are. And if you're the type of risk taker that's like, well, I buy against the bottom ends of ranges, and gee whiz, this thing, they're just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And we've been watching it over the past few months. Did spit up a little bit of a bottom here, but I don't know. If I buy this thing, I don't really want to get stopped out. So here's a really good example where we have, 3 different types of risk takers. One type of risk taker, the margin trader, of course, has to get stopped out on this move down below. You bought this W and you got to get out. But there's another type of risk taker that just simply says, I'm going to, let's see how we're going to do this. I'm going to buy this double bottom, but I'm going to risk 50% of my capital. So, and I don't even know if this is going to work. Let's see what happens. There is 45%, and that's risking all the way down to there. We call this guy the Joe Six-Pack, and he's just going to risk half of his money. So there is the W. He has a huge window of error. And you can see they even ran the stops and they put in another W here, and then they took it off. So there's that type of risk taker. And there is, of course, our little old lady, which I'm sure you're all well aware of. And all the little old lady does is just say, look, I'm going to take a small percentage of my portfolio and I'm just going to buy this thing and I'll risk to zero. Because if it goes off the board, then so be it. And I don't know if these guys are going to run the lows. So if anything, this is a really good analogy of the different type of risk takers in the marketplace. So we can have Mr. Margin Trader. Let's make Mr. Margin Trader like yellow. And Mr. Margin Trader, he actually takes 2 shots at this thing, eh? And, I just FYI, I used to work at a prop firm, and I had the privilege to chat with a lady by the name of Linda Bradford Radschke. You've probably heard of her once or twice. And I even asked her point blank, I said, well, if you have an idea and you're interested, Miss Floor Trader, you're the best. How many shots are you going to take at this thing? And she said, well, usually 2. And if the first shot at this doesn't work and you get stopped out, which is what would have happened here, she would have kept laser beam focus. And if another opportunity came in, don't let it slip through your fingers. And look at that beautiful little W that came in, even came in with a bullish engulfing bar, right? I mean, holy crap, what a signal to get back in. So are you a margin trader? In fact, actually, this is probably a really good little piece if we could do this. Margin trader, gotta take 2 shots. Gotta take 2 shots. And you gotta have the tenacity that if the first one gets stopped out, well, don't lose focus. Are you Joe Six-Pack, which would actually be a typical retail customer of mine. And let's maybe make them like teal. And Joe Six-Pack, they do nothing more than, okay, so Brian, your research department says that this thing's a buy, whatever the hell that is. I'm going to risk 50% of my investment in this thing. And if it breaks 50%, then you get me the hell out. And I don't want to be around this thing. So that's basically risking, did I do that right? No, that's 100%. Oh yeah, here we are. So I got the colors wrong. Sorry about that. That's this guy. Now let's make him orange. Like so. So Joe Sixpack, who bought this, oh, Brian, what the fuck you got me in here? Don't worry, right? We said we're going to risk 50% of our capital. If we go down 50%, we'll just clean the thing out and we'll move on to the next idea. And all of a sudden, woohoo! Oh boy, look at that, I'm rich. And then there is a little old lady, right? You guys all know the little old lady. And she does not want to get stopped out, right? And that's the important thing you have to understand. And most people in the public don't understand this because it's not really in the brokerage industry to promote this idea. Buy something and you never have to worry again. You just, if it goes to zero, so be it. But you know, you're going to risk 100% of your investment. And it's a function of how much money of your portfolio, your overall portfolio, you're going to put to work. So I can't tell you what type of risk taker you are, but hopefully you can see there are the three different participants and the way that they would have to act. And I'm very proud to say that those people that were either, and I think Julian, I would actually describe Julian. Here, let's throw this on here. I just want to show you the moving averages. Julian on air, which was pretty damn impressive. On air on his Thursday show, and actually, I guess it was the daily chart, something like that. He actually talked to the site about actually he took profits right on the tag of the 200 SMA there, and he bought against these lows here. So that was pretty darn impressive. I was pretty proud of him on that, and he just knocked the cover off the ball in this trade. So great job, and a bunch of TRIers did well on that. But what I wanted to point out was that I know that there was one person in particular who did the trade, was margin trading this, leverage trading this, but they didn't realize a margin trader, think Linda Bradford Radke, you have to be able to get stopped out on your first attempt and don't lose focus, because the next W that comes in is probably the one that they're setting up to rock and roll. So, and then of course, you know, as somebody just pointed out, Omar pointed out there, you know, little old ladies, they're, you know, this would be great, right? To call up the little old lady. You're buying there at 86 cents and have the you know, the tough life of saying, well, we just went and doubled your money, so we better go and sell half. And then to call her up a few days later, oh, I'm sorry, dear, sorry to bother you, but we just doubled your money again. So then you got to go sell another half, right? So the little old lady, this is exactly, and you know, I mean, you know, you all know this, most of you guys, but anybody who's not familiar with what I do, I mean, that was basically the hallmark of, although I don't know which screen it is. Nope, it's not that screen. It's one of these screens. Anyway, it's what I did last cycle in the crypto space. Had a lot of fun with you guys. I can't figure out where the hell I put it. Anyway, the Twitter page basically took 500, turned it into hundreds of thousands of bucks. And it was just simply doing this kind of strategy where you just come in, you're a little old lady. I'm not going to overthink this. I'm just going to go pick some up. And then when the damn thing doubles, out goes half, out goes half. And you just rinse and repeat. Just keep doing the same thing over and over. So based on a chart that looks like this, and I can't tell you what type of risk taker you are, right? Oh yeah, so Foggy. The good part about it is we have TRIers now on the YouTube channel. We're like, well, Brian, why don't you do Foggy Buggy? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? So they're out TAing me here now. Keep in mind, I'm just talking to the public. But, you know, it might be interesting just to do a Foggy Bomb off of this low, back up to this rally peak. I mean, just it'd be an interesting study. I don't know whether I would do it exactly this way, but nonetheless. And lo and behold, there are your fog and bomb levels. So believe it or not, this thing actually, if it just keeps going, there's still another objective up top here for it to hit. But anyway, Interesting. Look how it tagged 2.618 so nicely there. That's such a great example of that. That's not the point of this. If anything, this should be a good lecture to all of you of the different types of risk takers. So somebody give me some feedback on that YouTube page. Do you understand the different type of risk takers, how they would approach this trade? That's what I'm really trying to get across here. Did I do a half decent job at describing this? Anyone? Because we're coming into this event here for crypto. As one of our site members said, you better get your skirt. That's what it is, skirt together. This is exactly the same thing I would expect is going to happen in crypto. And if you want to be able to do this, and you want to be able to do it really well, right? In fact, I'll even take, put this in your diaries, people. Again, we don't even need the squiggly lines. The irony of all of this is that this has absolutely nothing to do with squiggly lines. This has everything to do with, gee whiz, they've just basically thrown the baby out with the bathwater. We're finally actually starting to get some basing type behavior. Is it worth taking a shot off of this? And then if you are going to take your shot, how are you going to behave? So I don't know where to put this. I think I'll throw this in the lounge, and maybe we'll add it to I don't know, some short or something like that. It's an interesting piece. Really good piece on different type of risk takers. Okay. All right. So with that said, and that's an example of one that just took off. Woohoo! Can you see the same image here? Can you figure out what type of risk taker you are and act appropriately? Can you see the potential profit here? Based on what you just saw out of that top trade, you should be able to. So, call that a gift from Uncle Brian. The only problem here, though, is you can't just look at this if you don't know what you're doing, you don't have a plan. You can't just look at that and say, oh, yeah, I'm just going to go and buy that. There's way too many other moving parts here. You have to, what type of risk taker are you? What kind of capital are you working with? That'll obviously determine how much money you can actually throw at this. And then based on what type of risk taker you are, how you're going to behave based on what you see happen here going forward. So it's not just as simple like, hey, Brian's giving you a tip there, go and make some money guaranteed. Doesn't work that way at all. But I'll tell you, that's a pretty damn good looking image. And if you know what you're doing in the marketplace, you should understand how you're going to participate in something like this. Let's see if anybody can answer me. What do we call all these people up here in this wick up top here? And the irony of it all is that I fully believe that down the road, the market will afford these people the opportunity to get out. Where are these people that FOMO bought, right? You can see the W's here. This is where you were supposed to buy, and you were supposed to be taking profits and selling into this pop. But who are these people? Eddie, what are you doing over there? You left? You don't want to hang out with us anymore? These are the substitute drama teachers right there. Can't you see them? Don't they look like substitute drama teachers? And for whatever it's worth, this was a I don't know, Eddie, do you want credit? Because this was Eddie's idea. So it just goes to show Eddie is he's getting very good at this. He's listened to me. He bought the message. He is actually employing these strategies. And I think he said he got something like 30 or 40 doubles off already, just in this very normal seasonal rally window. Buy when it what? Sell when it what? Hey, there you are. Now you're back over here. Nice to see you again. I swear, if Eddie was a girl, man, I'd be in love. Unfortunately, I don't swing that way. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't swing that way. But I swear, Eddie would check all the boxes. Although he doesn't have the best ass, though. I'll say that much. There, thank you, Adam. Nicely said. Adam actually wants us to do a boot camp, and I was quite surprised. This is super cool. I got to mention this. If you are a TRI or even if you're an alum, I think we're going to do a boot camp this fall over in Europe, and Adam is actually going to find us the Airbnb that we're going to do it out of. Adam found us the coolest place when we were in Portugal. So if anything, we probably should start getting those meetings going to start planning all this in earnest. I was actually very surprised. I kind of just threw it out there. Would people be interested in doing a boot camp this fall, getting an Airbnb and like say like a dozen of us, or I just thought like a minimum of maybe a dozen of us working together on a daily basis every single day together would be a good idea. And Sjord, good old TRI's CTO, threw these polls out here. And look at that. We got what? Is that right? What the hell does it say here? Are you interested in a boot camp get together this autumn? And 29 people actually said yes. So that's quite a bit. We need to focus, all you 29 people. I don't know how many votes there are here for this. 5, 12, 14, 15. So that's only half of the people. Got to get some more responses from you guys. I don't know how the hell this works though. Oh, I'm such an idiot. So this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There they are. So it looks like the majority of people. That's so funny. What a doofus. Either want to do Spain or other. Well, what the hell's other? I suppose if you have other vote, and 8 people want to do France. So I actually asked Adam if he could find a few places for us to consider this fall to do the boot camp. It looks like it's coming along. So if you are watching this, and yeah, what I really want is I want at least a dozen people, and it looks like we got 20 people interested in the day trader boot camp. And then actually what I think I might do is stick around another week. So we'll do like 1 week of the day trader boot camp, and then we'll do another week, a second week of getting yourself ready for the upcoming bull run in crypto and altcoins and that kind of stuff. So the more people that vote and articulate, obviously we'll do this sort of democratically, I suppose. Let me know. And Adam, if you could start finding us places. I don't know whether we want to go back and see if we can book French Lady's place, or do we want to find a really nice place like Adam had that place that Adam found for us and Oliveria de Hospital. Damn, that was a sweet place, and that would actually be perfect for us. So yeah, maybe screw French Lady. Let's find a really nice place. So if anything, you had a gentleman, Rush, who sort of got the ball sort of re-rolling here on this boot camp idea. Rush, if you want to, I don't know whether you're watching, and if you will, maybe come on the site if you could, and let us know when we should probably start getting meetings and stuff going on who's serious about this and start booking places. So anyway, FYI, that's coming up, and I would prefer it be TRI people. I think the bare minimum is I do need you to have completed level 1. I would ideally like you to have completed level 3 to do the day trader program. But we're maybe a little negotiable, but you have to have completed level 1 and you have to have shown us your pro trader workbench so far, the way that you have it all built out. All right. I know I'm running out of time. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the idea of the day. So hopefully you got some good value out of that. We'll leave weekly commodity trend survey talk until tomorrow morning. Generally speaking, crypto bread's still pointing up, so that's encouraging. I am long based the algo signal, which came in a few days ago. Stock market breadth, I'm a little scratching my head about this, but I think this is a function that the Russell 2000 hasn't quite broken out. And you saw, we looked at that Apple chart, we looked at Tesla. It has a weekly outside downside key reversal actually working right now. It looks like the market wants to rally, but I don't know. Based on this breadth, that data here, I'm not overly impressed. And if anything, I'm a little concerned. I would prefer that this stock market be rallying here. Usually when we get mixed signals from crypto and the stock market, usually we go sideways. So don't be shocked because keep in mind, our sort of report about what Bitcoin is doing here, it's actually going to be a fairly easy report for you guys this week. I mean, it's not really doing a hell of a lot. It's just sort of parked. So the weekly chart, what time is it? All right, I got about a half an hour. Weekly chart, moving averages are still pointing up, so that's good. And if anything, Chris, if you want to make a note in the the timeline of the video, when did Brian start talking about Bitcoin stuff? So weekly charts still pointing up. Trend is not down. Trend is still up. I'm wondering whether Bitcoin is now going to transition into a very typical asset, because through the summer, we used to, when I was a broker, especially, most of the professionals, they buy when it snows, their ideas, they sell when it goes, and then they head off to the Hamptons or whatever your respective cottage country is in your neck of the woods. If you're in Southern Ontario, in my country, they call it cottage country, Muskoka. Head up there for the summer. And they literally, these are like the people that own this world, 1%, all that shit. They're literally off in summer vacation land. And, if you're in New York, Martha's Vineyard, the Hamptons, whatever you want to call it. If you're not as wealthy, like George Bush Sr., he couldn't afford Martha's Vineyard. He couldn't afford the Hamptons. So he went up to Kennebunkport in Maine. That was the best he could do. Anyway, point being, most of the professionals through the summer period, they're not even in the market. And we used to actually call this period the summer doldrums. When I was a broker and you were pitching stock and trying to get new clients and all that. Just looking at the price action of late, this feels very summer doldrumsy. And, you have to ask yourself at $30,000 of Bitcoin, how many people in the public can actually even afford to buy a Bitcoin? That's probably way beyond their means. So has this transitioned into basically an institutional asset? I get the impression. On the weekly chart, this tail here off of a V bottom, this is not a wick for the record. Anybody who's a social media influencer who happens to watch this video, this is not a wick. Please learn this. This is called a tail. So you can see we have a little bit of a tail that's formed this past week. That's kind of encouraging. But I would imagine this tail at some point will have to be revisited. Candle body lows for trade location. I would, if I was trying to sharpshoot entries, I would definitely be watching that level right there for a trade setup down the road. especially if I was like futures trading or day trading, this kind of thing, that would just scream at me trade location there, as well as this one here too, which is a bit scary. So, this was the most recent one. I went on vacation through this week, and the whole reversal here was on, oh, BlackRock Capital wants to get into the Bitcoin ETF space. Oh my goodness, Bitcoin's a buy. Well, not really. V bottoms, kind of like this V top, V bottoms need to be tested. So I would fully expect that this low will be tested at some point down the road. And interesting enough, just like this V top up here, I would expect this V top to be tested at some point down the road. So we haven't actually M'd out here. We just went straight up, and now we're literally coming straight back down. We do have a Litecoin halving event coming up here, which is actually basically in the next day or two. And I do think to a certain degree, here's another name, actually. This is a name that our site CTO, Sjord, actually talked about in his Tuesday after party show. We have Sjord come on, talk to us. He's really good about fundamentals in the crypto space, and he really likes this one. So there's another free idea here for you to chew on, called a gift from Uncle Brian. Certainly no guarantees from the management, but it is a name that we are definitely interested in here at TRI. And of course, you want to listen to Sjord's talk about this name and why he would be interested, check out the Tuesday after party show. And he'll be on this coming Tuesday because he's just so awesome. But anyway, we do have Litecoin with its halving event. I hope you guys all learn from this. I told you guys repeatedly, we used to do those public shows. Now I'm doing them with Coinigy. That's been a bit of an adventure here recently, but I would like to try and get that Coinigy relationship back up and running and going. So been working diligently with Joe over there at Coinigy, trying to get his computers working. But anyway, point of the matter here is we publicly said this, very normal. Usually Litecoin likes to top about a month or so ahead of its halving event. So any of the public broadcasts that we did over the past year or so, we've been talking about this at length. You cannot make the argument you weren't given a heads up. Bitcoin or Litecoin usually likes to top about a month ahead of its halving event, and that is exactly what happened. I mean, it's shocking how cliche this is. And yet nobody in the public seems to remember this stuff. It drives you crazy. So if anything, we want to get through this halving event. And ideally, if this thing still is so awesome, right? We'd love to see some market structure come in on the other side of halving events. And then maybe we can actually start thinking about further bull markets. Now, I'm not really expecting that. I think this asset bottomed last winter. I specifically told everybody, do you have your skirt together? I went on and on and on. And this is what drives me crazy about the fact that these videos get so few viewers, is that I publicly, Adam, tell these people, I publicly barked and barked and barked about this thing last fall. And yet, I don't know, nobody's seen it. I don't know why it is. I just can't get through this social media. I think it's because I'm just so pretty. Everybody looks at my picture and goes, goodness gracious, I can't take investment from advice from a guy that looks that good. Anyway, so I clearly told all of you last December, I remember that. Do you have your skirt together? Where's Kat? She was the one who helped me instead of swearing as much as I do on YouTube. She said, maybe you should use the term skirt. Maybe that would be better. Anyway, so there was the rally, buy when it snows, sell when it goes. I mean, just so typical. And then also, too, we gave you full warning. Usually Litecoin likes to top out about a month ahead of its halving event. Now, I didn't think that this was a top, but that's exactly what happened here. Sons of guns. So really, the malaise that you see in crypto, I think is basically this story right here. So it's not even really anything to do with Bitcoin as far as I'm concerned. It's more to do with Litecoin. Having said that, if I just look at this and somebody said, well, Brian, what do you think's going on here? And this is just my opinion. To me, this looks like some sort of big head and shoulders that's trying to form here. And I think that's basically what our future is going to look like. Of course, not going to look that messy. I'm just sort of freehanding this. But I think that's what's happening here. So we'll see. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do something along those lines. In the short term, this shooting star actually creates a price objective because that's a trading range. We lost the bottom end of the range, and we should do almost exactly equal distance. This is what's called a measured move. So I wouldn't be surprised in the near term if there has to be some sort of dip. And we've got this pretty important downtrend line. Could we trade back to it? Sure. This is the uptrend line off of the lows from the winter. Could we trade back to it? X marks the spot. And notice, remember I had said earlier, candle body lows for trade location. Look how X marks the spot and those candle body lows for trade. I mean, look how that all seems to come together right in that area there. So I really do like a pullback into here, but that's just, what's your opinion, Brian? And keep in mind, opinions are kind of useless in this world. Everybody's got one, right? You know how all that goes, but trade your setups. So, if I look at how much time do I got? 15 minutes. 2? Oh, you bastards. You look at the daily chart, same sort of conversation. And the note that I put out on social media is this is a horrible trade location. Don't force me to tell you if this is going to go up or down right here. This is a nightmare. And if anything, and somebody quote me on this, I think this should be a short for YouTube if you can note this, Chris. This image right here is exactly why technician's job is not to predict the future. A technician's job is to identify high probability event windows. You've heard me use the term confluence before. So if we came down into this 38.2, which would mean coming down into this moving average, which would mean coming down into this trend line, which would mean coming down into the bottom of value, which would mean coming back down against those candle body lows for trade location like I talked about before. Then, all right, we have a confluence of levels. Maybe it means that we trade down to the bottom of this channel down in here, right? Again, confluence of levels, higher probability of having an idea of what's going to happen in the future. As we sit right here, it's literally a coin toss. Do we rally back up and move to new highs? And you can see that really on balance, if we follow the megaphone pattern that's been at work for the past 6-8 months on Bitcoin, we could very easily rally back up top here. Or do we tank and do we head into all of these levels like I said just a moment ago? It is literally a coin toss. And I really don't like this level. This level does not make me feel good at all. And it's interesting how the breadth, of course, is pointed up here, and yet the S&P 500 is pointed down. And so while the breadth is still pointing up, what ends up happening is Bitcoin just sort of goes sideways. But heaven forbid that breadth rolls over and we get some negative news, and you see the newsletter. I don't know whether we posted some. I know, Mr. Gensler, he's got just a major negative hard on against crypto. There is this big crypto regulatory bill that's moving through the US Congress, which I know a lot of people are very concerned about. And then I might argue, it's cool that Mr. Novogratz here has suggested that the institutions, institutional players, Fink and BlackRock and all the other different players are all interested in crypto. But that now, I think, sadly, is old news. That's not new news. That's old news. So, I'm just worried that Okay, well, everything that could positively be built into the price has been. And, just on the short term, remember I said that shooting star off the weekly charts? Well, it actually looks like a railroad tracks off the daily charts. And there's that continuation pattern that I talked about off the weekly chart. And this is now technically painting lower highs and lower lows. So if we look at the 4-hour chart, this is, I think, actually a better idea of what probably is playing out here in the short term. They're relatively small moves. So it doesn't surprise me that the algo, it's not going to get too upset if price swings 5% one way or the other. It's not really that interesting. I still think that this 4-hour bearish bot is actually still working away. Entered the short off of this 4-hour failure. We had move stop to scratch, then move stop to trailing. We rallied away from those lows, then we come back down, then we rallied up, then we're up and down, up and down. Yeah, we could probably, I don't like to do the 30-minute charts for you guys on these free videos, but it sure looks to me like within the context of this bigger pattern, we could go A to B and then C to D, right? Something like that. And oh, gee whiz, that takes us down into this bot level. And look at the selling that's coming in here now. Oh boy, that doesn't look good. So if this thing can hold these lows and actually start turning back up, but it doesn't look like it, does it? One eye, two eyes, three eyes. This looks like it's a lower time frame bearish bot setting up here, by the way. But if we fail here, then I think this bigger AB equals CD. And then also too, remember we said 13 EMA off the weekly charts, which is what really is support here in the near term. That's that level right there. I like the idea that the market needs to come down into these levels here. And then you might find that it tags this and then just rips straight back up. But it sure looks to me like this needs to play itself out. We'll see how it goes. The way that this bearish pattern gets negated is, for Pete's sake, show me some W's. Right? All I see is, M. Look at this M. Up, down, up, fail. Oh, nasty M. And then, oh, did we W out here? It looks like we're trying to, and then we failed against this level. And like I said, they're just about to rip this thing a new M here. Gee whiz. So, this is basically my feeling right here. We were trapped in a little bit of a muwak here, this kind of volume black hole right in there. And this was really a question of, did we lose value here? So as we dumped, we fell below value. Then the market rallied back to the old value low level. Then it faded away from that. Somebody was like, no, I think we're heading lower. And you can literally see now the war that's going on. Like I said, I don't want to drill down to lower time frames, but you could probably pick this range apart. And is that a bearish bot? Blah, blah, blah. What this really means is if we can get up through this high, then we accept back into value. And odds are we have to go back up to value high. In fact, probably an 80% chance that if this thing can somehow W out here and hold these lows, then it's probably going to rally back up to our previous high to low trend line that we made reference in, past probably 2 or 3 Broiler Chicken Show as resistance. And then lo and behold, what a big surprise that's going to be the reload short zone where we should actually be looking for tops. So there's your market state as it is right now. We are pointing lower. I think the bear has the ball. If we puke out here, then I think we've got probably like, what does that say? 28.1, call it 28,000. It is like 50% of this Larry Fink bull market move, right? It would make sense that would be a bit of a pivot there. And if they really want to tear this thing a new one, here are alt A, B, C, D levels. And of course, there is the Larry Fink low that I think actually needs to be tested at some point down the road. So Bears got the ball. Higher time frames still pointing up. Like I said, we haven't really broken down here in earnest. We're just backfilling the Larry. Call this the Larry Fink rally. That's really all this is. And they're just backing the market up into key support here. So what kind of sucks is that the kids, of course, are going to start freaking out if this thing dumps. The business news channels are going to be like, "Oh, Bitcoin's down." Oh. But what they don't understand is all they're doing is they're just backing the price up into key support here. And I'd be very, very surprised if you saw any further deterioration beyond these trend lines. This is just going to be an absolute brick wall of support. So there's your state of Bitcoin. Sure hope you enjoyed that. And I would say it's going to be awfully hard for crypto to rally here until we get on the other side of this Litecoin halvening event. That's what I found in the past, is that usually things are soft. And then once we get through this event, then I would, think of this as a big fundamental driver. So ahead of the fundamental event, probably a lot of bulls just squared up positions. Then once we get on the other side of the fundamental event, just follow the chalk marks. If it's Wing out, rock and roll. If it's Ming out, look for lower. Okay, so there's your sort of Bitcoin crypto summary. And hopefully I spoke to everything on this newsletter. And if you have any questions, feel free to post in the daily brief request room. I will circle around and answer these questions tomorrow in the after party. Like I said, Monday is usually a site review, dashboard review. Of course, I can never find these darn rooms. Anyway, you can probably see it here quicker than I could. There we are, daily brief requests. So one gentleman here, of course, is very interested in the algo, and so I'll be talking directly to him tomorrow, but I probably will save that for tomorrow. Now, the students do have the opportunity, and I've got I got about 5-10 minutes here to speak to this. The students in the level 1 program, I give them sort of a special ear from term to term. And this public show is where I'm supposed to answer these. If I don't have time, because the answer just takes way too long, then I will address this tomorrow in the after party as well. So questions here. Number 1, Brian, can you please explain what an empire or fractal pattern confirms? What it confirms? I don't know whether I know what direction you're going there. What I'll just simply say is anybody can do this at any given point in time. Like if you use TradingView, you can just come on here and you can actually type in fractal. Williams fractals, right? So it's this is I don't know whether this is Larry Williams or if it's a different Williams. But in essence, a guy named Williams sort of coined this term a while ago. And you can see that quite literally, the easiest way for you to think about all this is to think about how Mother Nature works. And the easiest way for you to see this is to look at a maple leaf, right? This is basically Mother Nature at work. So there is the icon that's on the Canadian Canadian flag. As you can see, obviously it is, Mother Nature. But what you'll hopefully notice is that we have a little up, a little peak, a little up, and then a fail. And then this pattern repeats again, and then it repeats again. And then this is the most important thing to try and understand this concept. If you zoom out, you'll notice that this pattern is exactly the same as this pattern, is exactly the same as this pattern. And when you put it all together, oh, gee whiz, look, rally, peak, rally, fail. The whole thing just makes a replication of this little image that you saw up here. And this is basically the building blocks of how Mother Nature operates on this planet. This is an easy way to see this. You can also argue that, if you look at something like the Not, I never know how to spell this correctly. You could argue that the Nautilus shell is kind of the same concept. We talk about the Fibonacci sequence. It's basically the same pattern repeated to infinity. And actually, if you break this down, what it really is it's triangles, triangles after triangles after triangles. And I don't know whether I can show you this. I don't have enough time. But somebody actually did the math of this. And it's an image that I use. Yeah, I don't see it here. It's an image that I use if you ever want to try and understand how to use the spiral on TradingView. That this is really the whole universe is actually built on triangles. And if you think about Nikola Tesla, he was absolutely in love with the number 3, right? Which of course is a triangle. And you could make the argument that the whole universe starts with a triangle, and every triangle, it just builds out on itself. Actually, this one might be a good example. So yeah, you can see it right there. So I don't know whether you can see this image or not. I'll throw this in your Q&A document, but it's basically the same thing. Like if you really want to understand the math behind how all this stuff works, it's really a function of that, which explains the fib sequence. And then, of course, these spirals, that is the fib sequence. And really, you can break all of these apart into triangles, which is this image. And the triangles and it just goes to infinity. It just keeps going and going and going in on itself. So this is sort of the basic building blocks of the universe. And if you juxtapose this, which is the math, and it gets really complicated, but just juxtapose that with the idea of the maple leaf, we could also do things like if you look at plants, the way that they grow, obviously the maple leaf is a plant, but the easiest way for you to understand this concept is to think of the maple leaf. And it's the easiest way that I've had over the years to try and explain this to people. First, I have to find the document that I had it on. There you go. So that guy and that guy. So let's unnumber those guys. But then that wiped out everything else, didn't it? Okay. So there. Terrible at this stuff. All right, there and there. And if you want help, and this is what we tell all the level oneers. So if you are a level oneer, David, hopefully go back and refer to the course material when we teach you. I think it's when we do candlesticks in level 1. Can't remember. How do you set up your chart? Oops, not that one. How do you set up your chart so that you can see these? You apply the fractal tool on TradingView. Actually, I think even Coinigy has it as well. And you can see how basically each of these little points, you'll notice that like this one. So there's the high. And then notice this high is slightly higher. And then this high is slightly lower. And we can get rid of the temps de marques. Right? So that is your maple leaf right there. And the little fractal tool will give you a little signal right on the peak of the fractal. And you can go through this chart, right? So here to here to here, that's exactly the same images there. Boom, boom, boom. So as a result, you get a fractal right there. And very simply put, fail. If it's a fractal top, then fail through this third bar is a sell signal, and your stop is the top of the fractal. Now, could you call this fractal by a different name? Absolutely. Keep in mind this Japanese candlesticks, and there was a gentleman. We don't need to get into the history. Just go back and refer to the candlesticks module. You remember Steve Neeson, but in essence, he brought the idea to North America, and then the Americans, right? They want to put their own personal label on things. So, could this 3-bar fractal pattern, Americans want to call this something American. So does this kind of look like an image that would be really easy for Americans to identify? And of course, then it definitely has the sort of, local spin. So Americans say, hey, wrap yourself in the flag, wrap yourself in a concept. And like Josh is saying over there, in the YouTube page, another way for you to think about this is the Mandelbrot set and the bug, right? So this is another. This is kind of going backwards in the conversation, so I won't pull up Mandelbrot. Hopefully you got the idea of what I was going for there. So does this kind of look like an American image, so that the Americans, when they see this, they can strap the USA label on it? And is there anything more American than the Empire State Building? I don't think so. So there is the Empire State Building. And hopefully you look at that, you see, all right, so it kind of looks like there's a left part, and then there's like a big shooting part up top, and then there's like a right part. Well, gee whiz, this pattern kind of looks like an Empire State Building. Actually, now it's got a zoomed in one so you can really see it. Ooh, this one's better. Yeah, well, that's good. So let's use that. So, does this boom, boom, boom kind of look like, oh, I can't paste that. Nah, jokes. Does it? And what time is it? Oh, Jesus, it's already 5 minutes after. All right, so we'll have to leave this at this. Where did I put that image? Okay, over here. Yeah, there it is. So we'll have to go like that, and we'll have to go like that, we'll have to go like that, and we'll have to go like that, and we'll have to go like that. And then we'll go like that, and then we'll go like that, and then we'll go like that. Yay, there we go. All right, so can you see that image there? So it's that simple. So hopefully, and actually that's Lego. Isn't that funny? So we got to get that for Sjord. That would be hilarious to get that for him. Anyway, so to answer your question in the simplest term possible, hopefully you can see the Empire State Building in that image right there. You understand the application of the fractal tool to try and help you see the fractal. And you can use, if you really want to dig into the math and how all this works, well, go have fun with fibs, the triangles, and then, of course, the simple Mother Nature concept and the maple leaf. So hopefully you see, boom, 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 boom. Looks like an empire. Looks like a maple leaf. This is how Mother Nature actually works. Okay. Can't be late for Liam, so gotta hop here. I think we'll leave the Q&A at that. I'll answer question number 2 from John V. Look forward to Chris, if you could remind me. I will answer this question tomorrow in the after party show before we get into talking about the dashboard signals. So, all right, I'll have to leave it at that. All right, have yourselves a great day. PMA for the win. Wish me luck with Liam. Your positive karmic wishes reverberate through the universe, which I think actually makes a difference. So wish me luck with the boy. I'm going to my real job now. And of course, we'll see everybody on the site when I get back tonight. Message to any level fours. Adam, can you do me a favor, please? I think I sent you a PM. Can you think of a sentence or two that you would use to describe the level 4 program? Whether you liked it, did you learn anything? And other level 4s, your buddy Ed, he gave me an absolutely beautiful summary of his thoughts of the level 4 program. So I've added that to the letter we're going to send out to site alum to encourage them to consider taking the program. So Adam, if you could do me a favor and let me know your thoughts about the program, I'd appreciate it. And all the other level 4s that are taking the program, that are watching this later on, thank you so much, Ed, for your feedback. Francis, I'm thinking of you. Can you give us maybe a sentence or two about what you thought about the program? And any other students? I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head, but I'd really appreciate it to help encourage all alum, because I tell you, this spread trading course that Zach's put together, it will take your investing to the next level, and you will literally trade the way that institutional traders trade the options and derivatives markets probably for the rest of your life, because the strategies are so killer. But sorry to tease all of you. I don't like the public to think about options, so you're going to have to go through the full education program to get to that candy, and it's some sweet ass candy, man. Anyway, PMA for the win. Slow and steady wins the race. And of course, Adam, you've got a bunch of jobs to do. You also got to find us a place for this this fall boot camp that meets your appraisal. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm going to give you a double salute today. Take it easy. Good luck in the markets. Come on over and take advantage of our 30-day trial if you want. If you want to just come and hang out and kick the tires. And of course, we'll see everybody on the site later on. All the best, and bye for now.